LPL 赛季已经打了一半了，强弱队伍的差距已经在逐渐的拉开，包括东部的3强，包括西部的 EDG 有 RW。而在这个赛季的话，其实东西部的强弱差距，我认为还是存在的，包括现在东部的新的3强 ，RNG、IG、京东。
绿毛也在人堆里面想要继续守。 莫甘娜闪现，但还是死了，交了个死亡闪现，后续还在继续追，维鲁斯也死了，坚决在追击的过程中也没有办法留下来，多 MB 也死了，最后只剩下一个 Mouse。
上个赛季的时候，我们发现东部的3杰是学习了西部，而这个赛季不知道东部的3强能否还延续上个赛季火热的状态。除了春季赛的4强以外，我觉得京东的加入也会让夏季赛、季后赛更加的好看，可能京东会成为那个搅局者。 不知道春季赛的4强谁会出局，谁又会进局？季后赛会告诉我们答案。
Hello and welcome to week 7 and day 5. I'm going to call it day 5 because we had a special broadcast yesterday, so we're going to have 7 days of LPL action coming your way, and we've got 2 more series on top of that as well. And you can see Fun plus Phoenix as well as LGD in their home arena, of course, in Hangzhou, getting ready for their game. Just walking into the studio right now and walking to the green room and get out onto stage. Somehow I just can't speak the English language today, so that's wonderful. But you can see the players just in their green room getting ready for this one. And it's going to be a longer week, this one, because of the Asian Games in Jakarta. We have changed some of our schedules just a little bit, just so we can accommodate all of those games and get all of the LPL action your way. And of course, on the FPX side, you can see Game Goon himself in the top lane, definitely been on a bit of a tear recently. Definitely going with the Rogue Warrior strategy of trying to, you know, make a square pin fit in a square hole. Anyway,
you are the worst Englishman ever.
This is Brent Raz Mohammed. How you doing, Raz?
I'm doing well. I mean, I just love just getting to sit back as you just implode.
As you watch a car crash happen on air. Wonderful.
I loved it. I enjoyed it.
Good stuff. Anyways, we have a lot to get through on this desk, so we're going to kick this one off with the recap. Now, on Tuesday and Wednesday, we had a bunch of games and an extra game on Wednesday. We'll get to that one in a second. But on Tuesday, we had Sunny Gaming take on Snake, and Sunny Gaming took that one 2-0. We ended the day with Invictus Gaming taking their series 2-1 against OMG.
This was a fun day. Immediately starting off with this first set because Sunny Gaming needed to bounce back. Remember, being in the Eastern Conference, taking losses is not acceptable. So having such a massive victory against Snake, top of the table in the Western Conference, was definitely a boost to the squad.
Oh yeah, it's a big deal for them because recently they've had problems getting towards that mid-game. It's like the early game, great. Setting up to the mid-game, great. But then they just face plant when they're trying to close games.
Completely dealt with, it felt like. That this time, 35-minute game, the last one, going into game 2 and cleaning it up, it looked like, remember, you're going up against Snake. So the barren situations that we saw expected, but it was the team being able to wrap it up quickly. Well done on the side of Sunny.
Yeah, in the next set, though, it was OMG taking on Invictus Gaming, and OMG, as we expected, did lose the series. However, it was actually a pretty close one in the end. They actually managed to take one game, and Raz, I know you were saying you felt like in the final game they should have won it.
Yes, I was heartbroken. Really, OMG in Chengdu needing to get this victory for their squad, not because, I mean, a lot of people had the expectation that IG would lose, but with how game 1 went and how Xiang played out of his mind in game 3, it was upsetting to see Rookie play so hard, play so well on the Zoe, and carry his team to the 3rd victory.
And that's just the thing with Rookie. He will play up in the clutch situations when you need him to. You think back to Riff Raus as well. You think of the Galio play, the Aurelia play. You know, he'll always make the big plays happen when it counts for the team.
My favorite part of that entire series, go back and watch it, is the Kled montage. Just essentially a roam squad with OMG being able to run down Rookie mid lane in game 1. So I loved it. didn't get on that pick once again in Game 3, but please watch it just for that. It was fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that OMG right now are actually on a bit of an uptrend. I think they're like taking games here and there and actually taking series here and there as well. They actually took their series 2-0 over BLG just last week, in fact. So I feel like OMG might be able to make a final sprint towards playoffs as we are getting close to that one, and also at a cross conference. Now let's take a look at Wednesday, because we had more games happening on that day. Actually, we had 3 series. Yeah, that's right, 3 series on Wednesday, again because of the Jakarta games. LGD started that one off against RNG, and RNG of course took that one 2-0 in Hangzhou. Vici then took on TOP, and TOP ended up sweeping them 2-0 as well, and then we ended the day with JD actually taking that series 2-1 against Edward Gaming.
A lot of his 4th place ramifications. Immediately, the first one that we're not going to take a look at, RNG smashing them 2-0, but taking a look at this series, TOP going up against Vici. It was TOP, you're talking about your faith in OMG going forward. TOP just keeps proving you wrong because they continue to win sets, setting themselves apart in the standings that we'll get to see later on, and the reason for it was Corn. Corn's Aurelia coming in hot. Got to see a few of those games come through. A lot of questions on the champion pool, but if you get a hand on Talon or the Aurelia, seems like the victories come through for TOP.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more, Raz, because we saw Corn bring out the Talon. It was fantastic last week, and then everyone was like, all right, no more Talon for you, Sunshine, and then he took that one away in pretty much all the bans from there on out. Then he picks up the Aurelia, picks up the Yasuo, all these carry picks in the mid lane, and basically does the same thing. So he's diversifying his champion pool while still doing it well.
And the team fights are coming in strong. Remember, a lot of the questions are in team fighting, and coordination's been right for them.
And then our final series of that day on Wednesday, it was Edward Gaming taking on JD. Now, this was definitely a bit of a back and forth, and it was, I think, highlight plays from many different players on both sides.
For Zoom in particular, because not only in this play outplaying a 2v1 situation, but in the team fights, his Swain was so pivotal in being able to zone off of them. And a lot of it was in late game team fighting. Remember, major questions on EDG when they go up against team fighting squads. This one really nailed that in the coffin because it was JD coming out with a 3-game series victory. A lot of that off of Yagal's Yasuo, Swain in the top lane. Not being able to deal with the Azir later on in the series felt like the scaling of JD was able to unravel ED.
Yeah, I was going to say that pretty much, Raz, because that story sounds very similar to EDG's problems recently, because it's just like team fighting squads. Oh, well, they went against Rogue Warriors, the team fighting aggression squad, lost their series against them, followed up by JD. So it's definitely a struggle street for them. Though on the top of the tables, Rogue Warriors, speaking about them on the Western Conference, firmly in first place, 11-2 right now, second best to Edward Gaming, who are 7-6. Then in the Eastern Conference, Invictus Gaming leading 11-1.
Yeah, already solidifying themselves in the playoffs. Rogue Warriors, that is 4 series ahead of EDG.
Ridiculous.
That's how far they are right now. So moving on to today's matchups, 4th place implications, because remember, in the Western Conference, that door is wide open. FPX want to be able to have that. You mentioned OMG. TOP was already mentioned in the previous days. FPX need to get this victory to be even, I would say, in that name, because they're 1 series away from TOP, but TOP seems to be on a run at the moment. So going up against LGD, for me, that's going to be a really hype set to start us off with.
Yeah, it's not a 1-horse or a 2-horse race in the Western Conference. It's like a 17-horse race. There's so many players, so many teams that are gunning over not only the 4th spot, but also the 3rd slot as well. So lots of people gunning over that. But taking a look at that, we've gone through the schedule. So let's talk about our match of the week. That'll be happening tomorrow, Raz. That's actually happening on Saturday, of course, Friday today here in China. And that will be Invictus Gaming taking on Rogue Warriors. Now, we were just talking a lot about Rogue Warriors. In fact, you casted them yesterday, so we actually know how Rogue Warriors are doing right now.
It's just so crazy how quickly this team has changed themselves, gotten so much better, really improved since we saw them in, let's say, Rift Rivals. Rift Rivals, they were by far the weakest of the top 4 LPL teams, and then they learned that hard lesson, of course, is very recently smashing EDG in a way you wouldn't expect, not through team fighting alone, but actually just through strong drafts, strong early game, really having great vision control around Flawless and Killua. So going up against IG now, a team that's been taking a lot of teams to 3-game series, they have a really good shot.
Yeah, and don't be deceived. I mean, these are the top of the standings in the Western and Eastern Conference. You just saw the standings, not lying to you. You know, it's not EDG versus RNG. That's not the top of the table. It may be at the end of the split in players, who knows? But right now, it's all about Rogue Warriors and Invictus Game. Both those two teams on a tear in their respective conferences, and I fully expect that one to go to 3 games.
It's fun. It's like the regular season kings, because remember the last time around, we expected Rogue Warriors and IG to be smashing it in playoff time. Now they get their second chance, obviously, weeks down the road, but currently, before we said Rogue Warriors and IG top 2 teams by far. I mean, there is a discussion of RNG now on the upswing in Spring Split. This time around, it's almost exactly the same story, except for Rogue Warriors being shipped off to the West. So we really get to see a few less games, so they're going to be a lot more valuable to tune into.
Exactly, and that'll be coming your way tomorrow, in fact, so make sure to tune in that one, 7 PM China time. Now, though, we are going to get into our first matchup of the day, but before we do that, we're going to hear from Yuki.
酷这名选手以前也是在老公爹服役过的嘛，我一直觉得他是一个很厉害的中单，希望之后可以和他一较高下吧。
A lot of respect there for his opponent in the mid lane, and it's in fact the mid lane we want to be talking about here, Raz, so why don't you take me through it?
2017 was when, of course, Cool was on LGD, and he had a great split because the thing with Cool is that going on newbie to LGD, he was actually an incredible individual performer. So then when in preseason, the man was no longer on the team, people were like, well, we better have replaced him with someone good. And you bring in Yuki and Nanju, and no one has ever heard of them in their life. There was discussions of Yuki being a prodigy, but at that point, no one has actually seen him getting played in the audience perspective. And then in the spring split, honestly, Yuki didn't show up. Now move into the summer split, and we have ourselves what is a breakout split for him, filling in the shoes of Cool, and you can see the stats off of it. So he's been doing steadily. Hopefully we get to see him go up against his former mid laner here, Cool, and outperform. Yeah,
big shoes to fill, but I feel like he filled them. I feel like he needs new shoes. Get him new shoes in there. He deserves his own shoes.
Give him size 12s.
Yeah, as we get into Champions Night, FPX taking on LGD. We're going to be starting off with FPX. We'll be banning away the Yasuo, the Camille, and the Orianna. First picking the Talia.
There we go. A lot of respect towards Yuki, but remember, us fun because there's a lot of discussions around Irelia. Yuki has had some incredible Irelia plays, solo kills, 12 solo kills, 12 series. It feels like we're expecting each series you get into for him to get that kill. So individual matchups, a lot of focus is on the mid lane jungle, and it's already being picked out. Talia, first rotation from FPX for Alex, is going to be pivotal.
Well, for sure. On LGD's side, however, they'll take away the Swain, the Aatrox, of course, and Kindred on their side was first picking the Zoe, actually, for Yuki in the mid lane, following up the Tam Kench pick. And FPX responded with a LeBlanc.
Yeah, counter matchup immediately. So for LGD, the only thing they have to work on is how do they actually attack the LeBlanc Talia. Most teams have actually gone towards Nocturne if it's not banned. In this case, it isn't. So you get post 6 can actually dive on towards the Talia. Or Xin Zhao has been EDG's answer. Any bruiser that can just jump on towards the Talia, issue is it's usually Talia that gets first punch because she's on the map earlier.
Yeah, FPX will follow up with their Alistair pick into the bottom lane for Crisp right here, and LGD will also follow up with a Nocturne. Well, there's no Kindred on the board, so Nocturne definitely works in the jungle right here. And they'll also look to ban away the Kled.
And just to hit the point harder, remember, Nocturne is great in terms of dive threat. And the champions that are in threat of that dive is the Talia and the LeBlanc. So makes a lot of sense. If you bring out the Kindred, perhaps it could be you could work out a little better and challenge Talia, but Talia wins that matchup in an even setting. So makes sense to bring out the Nocturne, just means that they have to worry about the level 6 a little bit more.
Exactly. Cannon will also be a ban here from FPX, looking towards the top lane, of course, on Jinnu, who's definitely been playing a little bit of that recently, actually moving towards the AD Cannon versus the AP Cannon we've seen so much of recently in the LPL. Gangplank will be the ban out here from LGD. Of course, looking at Gimgoon and Core in the mid lane, but also Gimgoon.
Wonder if they ban out Shen. Jinnu's not a Shen player, but the composition is screaming out Shen. It would set up the Zoe very well. The Nocturne is an easy composition to go around. And remember, the lot of safety you have is Shen and the Tam Kench. It's something that you could actually buy and say, LGD, you should pick it. But remember, styles matter here. And Jinnu is a player that wouldn't want to be on a defensive pick unless he has a really good matchup for it.
Or he goes for like the Flandre build and then goes, you know, Klepto into Titanic into Triforce.
That's why the matchup matters. If he gets a melee tank champion, then sure, you know, pick the Shen. But a lot of the times he's going to have to wait on it. That being said, he's already made his choice. I guess he's on tank duty anyways.
Yeah, but he just went for a different tank. He just went for Mundo in the end. So taking the Madman of Zorn into the top lane here. And then back over to FPX, looking at Ezreal pick.
I think an Ashe pick should come out for LGD. If you look at their composition, the only engage point that they have is Sleepy Trouble Bubble and the Nocturne ultimate. They need something to follow up on that, or that can at least be a go signal for Nocturne. So Ashe is a possibility, especially now knowing that you're going up against an Ezreal.
I think FPX definitely acknowledged that because they banned away the Varus. They also took away Y4's Orianna before that, so they're actually trying to take away these options from them and actually just make sure it's like, well, if a random Sleepy Bubble hits, then that's our engage. But yeah, Ashe is open. Hell, even a Jhin is like a kind of a soft engage for them. So I'd like to see something here from LG. Oh, they picked the Kai'Sa. So on the opposite side, FPX will bring out the Darius actually. So we'll see which lane that goes into. Probably going to be the top lane here for Gimgoon. And I'll be playing, of course, into the Mundo.
And here's the thing. LGD, very clearly their weakness in this composition is no clear form of engage. So when they have any lead in the game, they're going to be heavily looking towards the Zoe to get the Sleepy Trouble bubbles across. That's almost a certainty. For FPX, they've learned their problems from last time around. In the last series, when FPX had a lead versus BLG, their issue is that they couldn't engage. This time around, having the Alistar being a major point of that, Crisp is a phenomenal Alistar, so we got an opportunity to see what he can do here today.
Yeah, Crisp was great on those engaged champions, looking towards the Alistar, as you just said. Rakan as well, also a great pick for Crisp. And they also have a Taliyah in the jungle. There's multiple ways for them to set up fights for themselves. I like the Kled ban coming out of LGD, but there are still opportunities now for FPX to look for these fights. It's also one of the first times we're actually getting to see Gimgoon on Darius. And now it feels like this champion would suit him to a T, but typically we've seen more, you know, like Kled, Vladimir is like one of his fallbacks at the same time, so he's actually moving more towards the meta now.
Yeah, we're seeing a whole host of things from Gimgoon.
We are.
Gimgoon's in a weird position. We know that he's a strong, talented player. Honestly, we can make this point about almost every one of the players of LGD and FPX. But being a team player is something that's been lost on him. Oftentimes, he's been on the poor end of things in the spring split in particular, when he's at a massive deficit in laning phase, not getting any help from his own jungler. So he would just pick himself bad matchups, bad carry matchups as well. So like a Vladimir into something just awful. And then he would just always hope on the team fights, that he would come in hot in the team fights. Later on in the game, the team doesn't find themselves that far in a deficit. This time around, it's been changing, especially in the last few weeks where he's been getting a lot of help from Crisp, from Cool. The vision's been there, and it's been a lot more helpful for him. We just need to see him now being able to pay it forward. So let's see in this game if he gets that lead early on, and if he can actually place towards it, maybe even lean towards the LeBlanc side of it.
That's such a good point, because FPX is like, the way I like to describe him is like, as long as you don't look at the first 35 minutes of gameplay and only look at like the last 5 minutes, you're like, this is a good team. Look how they set up those team fights, late game team fights, FPX, great team. But then you look at the early game, it's like, what a disaster. How did they even get here? And I think that, as you said, now that Gimgoon's getting his leads, can he pass it forward? That's the big question here for FPX. As we get onto the rift right here in Hangzhou, get a thumbs up as well over from LGD. We'll see which team can take it here today, and at the very least, take game one.
And the chants have been louder and louder as the weeks go on for LGD. That's what I'm hearing. Remember, LGD have been a team that have been having problems for a very long time, never getting higher than 6 wins in a season. Now they're at 4 wins thus far for series wins.
4 and 8.
It's been getting better for them. I mean, since 2015, I know the whole Dom thing, he loves the still remembering that moment.
Yeah, he likes to tell the old war stories like, back in my day, LGD.
But the reality of it, Grandpa, is the fact that they haven't been good for a little bit. But now it looks like that rebuilding period is starting to get better, bringing on new DJ as a coach. And so new players, Y4. I know we tell this story often, but the split, it's important. It's necessary.
Yeah, Amy just being spotted out by a ward right here, so probably won't get the gank to happen onto top lane unless Gimgoon is literally blind.
He's blind.
Okay, well, he's going to walk into this bush, but he's also got his jungler on the bottom side. We'll have to flash away. Forces the flash out from the jungler, and Jinu actually now on the retreat will be tagged up by his red buff, and Gimgoon trying to get in range with this one. Only level 1, though, so only will be able to come out of the queue, but a little bit of cross wires there.
Yeah, so Gimgoon recognized that his jungler was coming through, probably walked in too early, which is why he flashed. He was in a poor position for that entire 2v2. But that being said, being able to get the flash on Nocturne is super important. The matchup was already favoring Taliyah in the jungle anyways. Now she gets to walk up to Raptors and consistently contest that.
Yuki in the mid lane getting walked down right now. He's on a leash, and there's going to be flick back as well. Should be finished off here. Who's going to get the auto attack? It's going to be Taliyah. First blood to FPX.
Well done. You know what? I'm just a little bit, even with the kill, a little bit salty that Alex isn't helping Cool out push the lane. He's like, all right, I'm moving on to the next location.
Give me the crap, man.
I just love what Alex is doing so far. 3 minutes into the game, already helping out top side, getting the communication across the Gimgoon that he can help him out. be able to force the flash on Amy, and is already now looking to move on to blue side because he knows that Amy went for such a risky path, going top side so early on a Nocturne. He's not going to be able to get his blue buff, getting triple buffed early on.
I actually think that Alex is a great addition to the lineup here for FPX. I mean, coming in over Shinny in the jungle has been really good recently from what I've seen out from him. Actually very proactive in the early game, makes a lot happen. Actually a great bridge for FPX, honestly, in the early game. I actually think that one of their weaknesses, as we were just talking about, has been how their early and mid game has been set up. Late game, no worries, but it's about getting there, and Alex does a lot of that for them.
Fresh perspective, honestly. Bringing in an LMS jungler brings in ideas that it's like what's actually been happening in the LMS. How are games so slow in comparison to ours? And for J-Team's Alex, a lot of it was a lot more controlled through mid lane. Something that Cool definitely needs. Can actually flex, play the Vel'Koz that he did earlier on, play the LeBlanc in here today. So he can actually just super focus on the matchup, knowing that Alex is a mid lane focused jungler that also has very good control on the map.
It's also the way in which Alex has done it, as we're just taking a look at Chris making a rotation to mid lane. That being said, Cool actually has complete control. Oh, missed the cannon minion. Feels bad, man. Amy on his way to the top lane though, about to be spotted by this ward. So Gimgoon already on his way back, and he definitely saw that positioning there.
We made a mention of it. Gimgoon having the early wards to be able to protect himself. Last split, that gank would have just shredded him apart.
Oh yeah.
This time around, the early vision allowing him to actually make the aggressive plays. Speaking of that.
Yeah, waiting on the spell shield, but still caught on this one. Going to turn around and tether him back, but Amy's still going to die. And now Alex looking towards a second victim as Yuki walks up to the play. Should be just walked back to the tower here by Cool and Alex. But still another kill going to FPX and a second one towards Alex himself.
And he's just going to keep walking down Yuki because he knows that Yuki's trying to stay in lane. You know what? You better exhaust some potions. So much pressure early on. Amy is so far behind now experience-wise. I don't know how he's going to get back into the... He should just be hard farming out.
I mean, it's the pressure, right, that we're talking about from Alex at the end of the day, but he's also a bit of a carnivore. You know, he'll get in there, he'll look for a fight, he'll look to try and get some kills. If you think back to when Carcer came over from the LMS, went into RNG, a big problem when Carcer first came into the roster was like, I just don't know why everyone's fighting all the time. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, LMS, completely different environment, but it seems like somehow Alex has adapted really quickly, even compared to a jungle of the caliber like Carcer on RNG.
Stylistically, he's a pretty spot on, I would say, much more of aggressive jungler in the LMS. A lot of his greatest moments have been through his Kha'Zix, where he... Oh, come on!
Okay,
get out of there!
You're gonna have to flash away from that one 100%.
You would have been solo kill number 13. In fact, he's trying.
Oh, he's still going for it. Alex turns a corner, just finds Yuki as he's pushing forward.
Tried to go for the sleepy trouble bubble, realized very late that he didn't have many mana. There's no mana on this champion. Get out of here. Go back to base. That's what happens when you have 12 solo kills so far in the split. You just get bloodthirsty. Get out of here.
I mean, as you said, 12 solo kills, 12 games. This is the 13th game. He's got to get another one.
Oh, serious.
That's true. He's got more games to do it.
He's got a few more. Extend
it to 3 games, baby. you got 3 games to get a solo kill.
That's to say, if he loses this one, better chances.
Uh-oh. Alex is caught up by Pua. He's going to ignite him straight up because he found the gobble. Amy's right behind him. It feels like Alex has bitten off a little more than he can chew.
Give him the Tan Kenchi emote. Very topical. Really well done from EPYL. Giving space for Y4 to get the solo experience here with the wave so close to his tower. And he just knows that with how Talia's been playing thus far in the game, that of course he's going to contest more camps.
Yep.
And that being said, it just kind of now sets alarms for FPX that they should be sending an extra member, Crisp, in this situation to be able to help them secure those moments. So that could just be a spark for a fight, honestly. We get to a point where if you get killed as Alex here, you know you're still far ahead. You still have the item advantage over Amy. It's not like you shouldn't just back away. You should continue on forward, just now bring his adjacent lanes to help him.
Yeah, definitely agree with you. PYL, feel like he's an interesting gentleman. As we see Alex move his way towards the bottom lane. Going to be engaged. Double knockup coming out from Crisp and looking for the 2-for-1 special. Double flash away from that one.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, just the flash so you can help out Y4 there. So at least Y4 still has his flash. So if a play actually ends up happening under the tower, at least he's safe. Tom Kench, you know, au revoir. If
Catfish on the menu.
Oh, let's go.
Well, Alex still coming for this one, but is actually getting turned around on. Doesn't land a flick, but Y4 does successfully get away. Didn't have to burn his flag. He's put to sleep, but he's in a brush. Where is he? Oh, still managed to land it, Yuki. Amy was just coming around, seeing if he could follow up, and Cool going to be stopped from coming into the mid lane here.
We were in an awkward situation where Y4 and PIL had to base, so there was so much pressure bottom lane. Didn't know how LGD were actually going to respond to that. With Cool losing that much HP, they actually could have had a response. Unfortunately, you're in Season 8. There are a few brutes on the map that can actually top you up so you don't have to base. So just by the luck alone, Cool can just stay in lane just based off that alone.
Yeah, feels a little bad with your LGD, but either way, Amy back into his jungle has given him a lot of pressure back now, which means he should be able to just farm his waves, or farm his jungle camps in pieces, I guess what I'm trying to say. But he's still being very cautious, you know, sweeping the jungle, making sure there's no wars, he's not being tracked out by Talia once again, now that she's hit 6.
Yeah, the timing was crucial there. Remember, Zoe was coming back from base, so starting up blue would just actually lose that much more HP for him as well. So, good to keep that timing, see if there are any wards there, and then he can move to the top side, or, remember, level 6 now, can look for a bottom lane dive if the setup is right.
It's possible. Alex is actually moving towards the bottom side, maybe reading this. Also his only camp, the Krugs are actually just spawning, so it just makes sense for him to be here to respond, but it seems like Amy not interested in making a proactive move right now.
Just remember that for Amy at this point, setting up a gank in the bottom lane is fairly difficult versus Ezreal, who has, of course, his E and his flash available. And Alistar that's pretty damn good at deflecting those ganks. If you are a Nocturne, the lane that you want to look towards more often is actually just on the LeBlanc. You can see how Yuki's actually been performing in the lane, being able to reliably hit Sleepy Treble Bubble. It's a gambit, and I think that's why the Nocturne's actually pretty hard to play out. We'll have to see.
Yeah, bit of trade in the mid lane, chunking Yuki down to half. Nice stuff from Cool right there, dodging through the wave using double distortion into the chain combo. I like to see it. Alex is still just hovering around his jungle though. It seems like he's just being in the general vicinity, general area, you know, just making sure that he gets a general beat on Amy so he can react to him. That being said, Alex is making his own proactive move towards the bottom lane now.
And he's, of course, level 7. He has his ultimate available. If he wants to set up for a play, it would be good to go for a bottom lane. T-Wild doesn't have flash. So you can try for the Tom Kench. You have enough damage and CC to make it happen. It'll take some time, but if they make the setup right, it should work.
Ah yes, top lane island. Almost forgot it existed. Darius into Mundo, been a bit of back and forth between the junglers, but it's just enough where Mundo's been able to happily farm it out against this Darius, as the matchup usually works out. Darius got his own way, he'd be smashing this Mundo, but he just doesn't know where Amy is at all times. And now the fact he's level 7 means that a Paranoia gank could just be around the corner, so doesn't want to be too far pushed up in lane.
True. It's hard, I would say, in this instance to go for a Paranoia ulti on towards Darius. At this point in time, Amy's incredibly squishy and doesn't have a stopwatch because he didn't go perfect timing, which is fair. Post 10 minutes, it's actually just going to be a difficult run of things.
Definitely will be, but still enough for Gimgu not to be like, I'm going to harass Mundo underneath his tower. So, it will just be equal farming in the top side. It's just Alex right there taking out the crab. Simultaneously looking towards the Herald as well. 11 minutes into the game, that one has just spawned. And Amy, sitting in defense actually, looking towards the mid lane. Also Tam Kench roaming up.
I think it's the right play. You should look for plays around mid and try and play reactively. At this point, Alex has been making a lot of moves. If you can catch him looking for a gank on towards Yuki, it would work well. This is one of the problems of LGD's composition, but we'll have to see. It seems like the fight's starting. He's
going real deep, and the counter gank is big coming out from LGD. They obliterate Alex and Chris, now getting run down as well. All of FPX charging into this fight, but they are definitely on the back foot, as they are still getting some damage on trying to protect Chris. He looks for another head, but he's still going to go down for the second kill over to Yuki, making their third one going over to LGD, and they are completely routing FPX right now. Gimgoon gets one in return, but they're about to lose 5. Cool jumps over the wall, and Jinu is still following. Tam Kench over the wall brings Y4 with him. Cool, just barely dodging that cleaver. Will be able to survive this play, but that's multiple kills to LGD.
And there we have it. I mean, the members were there. PYL and Amy were just waiting for that one member, and guess what? It happened. Being able to just get a jump on FPX there. So the flank position was enabled. Amy got a great ultimate off to be able to get some damage across. Would love to see the replay again, because I love the fact that the flank was there for LGD. The adjacent lanes, bottom lane especially, moved in quickly.
I mean, frankly, it just got bad to worse for FPX. It's like they kept doubling down. They're the type of team who will, in a poker game, continue to raise even though they have a bad hand.
Yes.
And they just did that over and over again with multiple teleports, multiple people arriving to the play, doubling down even on the mini fights that opened up there. And it's like, we can win it if we keep fighting, even though they were playing from the low ground.
And I think that the major takeaway from that fight is to be able to press tab and check on who has stopwatches, because They tried a lot to be able to get on top of Yuki. They exhausted a lot. Remember, Yuki was in a poor position, but stopwatch enabled. Then, of course, Tom Kench. PYL was incredibly crucial in that fight, being able to help the one member. Didn't have enough, I'd say, cooldown for his second save. But just being able to play with the cooldowns that they would have with the stopwatch with Tom Kench. And so that was all Y4,
yep.
Being able to assassinate the members in the Dragon Pit. So well done from LGD.
That being said, I feel like FPX right there, specific Crisp, the call maybe should have been like, all right, the Alice's gone rogue, let him die. You know, he's gone in, he's trapped by 3 people,
yep.
Don't react to it. They just lose the Alice, maybe they lose an objective off of that, which is Cloud Dragon, by the way. And it's like, all right, cut our losses, we're good.
That's the thing. You know, we're dealing with the 2 6th place teams at the moment. A lot of them are trying to play a slower game. FPX is definitely one of them. But at a certain point, you want to be able to make something happen. Alex was so far ahead of the pace in this game, even with the early death that he had on by Tom Kench.
Yeah.
To force something around mid lane, and he was doing a good enough job at that. Issue is, LGD as a team were playing very respectfully. Amy, while behind, understood that he actually just needed to be around mid lane for the play, had read it properly. So you can see that LGD, a patient team, being able to read and understand Alex's movement, actually get the kill across.
Now, I have another theory, and it's specifically about PYL in the bottom lane.
I'll give it
now,
to you.
I watch him sometimes. I remember specifically the day it was in a 3rd game set, and 3rd game in a set, and he just went off. He was like a completely different player took to the stage, and I was like, wow. This PYL, I want to see him every single time. Now, the other PYL, I see just walk into tri-bushes, warding when he shouldn't be, getting caught out. And then when I see some of these games where it actually does pretty well for him, it always feels accidental. So I was like watching him walk through the jungle, it's just like, ah, well, you know, Alex was there, maybe he was tracking for him, maybe he was just going for a stroll in the jungle. Catches him, gets the kill. Walking down, setting up a play around mid lane, looking to gank the mid lane, walking back to his lane, and Alistair just happens to just walk into him, and he's like, ah, fantastic, get a kill. And right now, he's 100% kill participation, 0-0-5, looking great in this game, but I'm like, how much of this is preordained, and how much of this him being right place, right time?
Well, here's the issue, and it comes down to what league is ultimately, or at least proper play in league. Because when someone pushes out, or they're in a good position in lane, and they have a good understanding of where the jungler should be, the enemy jungler that is, then being able to move, be active, that's what you should do. Now, you're not going to catch the enemy jungler, you don't have the wards there, unless if, like, maybe you do run into him. Then that's best case scenario because you have the members there, because you're actually the member that shouldn't be there.
Right.
Because you're roaming there. So a lot of the times what people don't get to see, the audience members, are the right movements that catch no members out. I would say Flandre is a great example of a top laner that moves quite frequently when he has pushing lane, but then he gets 0 kills off of it because he doesn't find anybody, but he places proper wards down. This is a great game of somebody doing that, but then getting kills, right?
And getting rewarded for it.
Exactly. Yeah. So when the rewards come through, you get paid very handsomely. To your point of course, PYL being the member that gets caught so often, that's been a story of LGD communication that's always been awry for the team. A team that they have the proper members, the members who are super strong. PYL being the assumed leader of this team of misfits, perhaps, the bandits.
One could say.
But then, of course, there would always be members of Amy going in when the rest of the team is not there last split, or PYL finding wards when he should be with Amy. That's always been the issue, and I feel like this split's been different because, of course, bringing in former JDG coach UDJ has been a very strong history for himself in the LMS. He's a coach that I feel like the organization needed, and having hungry young blood of Y4 who wants to perform and who wants to get the wins because that's beneficial for him in his career. That's just starting up. Same with Yuki. Breath of fresh air for the organization, and it seems like the communication has gotten much more healthier.
It has indeed. And as you can see, we're back into game. Was just a small issue on stage. It looked like we didn't know exactly what it was, but it's over now, so who cares? Back into this at 13 minutes. 3-5, and LGD leading us in terms of kills, and you could say pressure, but in terms of gold, we're dead even.
And here's the thing. While the gold is dead even, LGD are far ahead compositionally. Look towards what items Zoe has. Double magic penetration, flat penetration, of course, the Oblivion Orb, and then the boost that she has. Well, you see, the Kai'Sa has the first item of Storm Razors. So take a look at this fight. Great ultimate to assassinate Alex immediately, and that was the go-to member who was pressing up early. So while it's FPX walking forward and seeing if they can get a kill on Yuki, while he is so close to death. What the heck?
Yep. Okay, this isn't part of the replay. People are dying. Okay, got it. Yeah. Both of the mid laners are dead. PYL getting chased down by Alex, looking for Flick, finds it. Oh! He was surprised he found the Flick. He started to back away, throws out another pebble, forcing the flash from TK.
He slowly played it. He recognized the timing that PYL had in his shield. Thought he could get the kill. Of course he could. So flash from PYL. Sad we couldn't get the complete picture of that fight.
I'm sure we'll get a replay of the replay.
Hopefully not too long, because it seems like so many fights are happening. We might miss the setup for the next play. I just love the fact that both mid laners died to showcase that both teams are really heavily focusing on the mid lane. Control wards down on FPX side, so they should have the full control at this point forward.
Okay, Y4 is really good at catch. He just took like 4 Mystic shots to the face. And now we have to go back to base. Alex was actually as well roaming around the bottom side. Looks like he just took blue buff away.
Here we go.
Double distortion onto Yuki, follows up with a perfect chain combo. Alex is here. I mean, it's as easy as you like. He didn't even need to be there, to be honest. Cool had it on lockdown.
Love how Alex is still continuously pressuring. Last time getting the kill on towards Zoe, now gets it again. It's been a poor time since the last team fight from Yuki. Now he's just in gray screen simulator. He will definitely lose mid lane tower. Got chunked last time, so now this should just be the finishing blow.
Do you know how the solo kill calculations work? Did Alex just mess up Cool's solo kill?
I don't know. That's a good question. I have no idea.
He was technically around the area when the guy died. I think that's actually the case.
Yeah. He doesn't have a solo kill anymore.
Yeah. Unfortunate, considering Yuki is the one who was hunting this game. Cool technically found one. I'll give him the honorable, solo kill, even though Alex chimed in for an assist. Oh, Jinu he knows something's in there. It's Darius. We're playing Mundo Ball in the top lane. Unfortunately, Darius he can't throw his axe. It's kind of attached to him.
And Jinu kind of loses HP if he keeps throwing him, so he's going to have to stop.
He's got his Spectre's cow. He's fine.
Stop it.
He doesn't care. It's like 76 health, I think you lose at this stage. Or like 80.
Well, he's been hitting him, so he gets HP back.
Alex is on his way to the top lane. He doesn't have his ult anymore. It is halfway off cooldown. Actually looking towards the Herald now, because mid lane tower has been cracked open.
He shouldn't start it too early. Remember, the major worry is Amy just being able to calculate where he is. And so as long as he can take down the control ward, put the control ward of his own down, and play around it fairly slowly, so Amy doesn't stick around far too long. Seems like he's just doing it though, just looking at the mini-map. A lot is happening on the map currently. It's LGD pressure.
Yeah, pushing into the bottom side primarily. Banana comes through, doesn't clear out the total wave. Amy is on his way to the bottom side. What are FPX doing right now?
Yep, so this is great. So it's just trading sides. What Alex wants to do is go top lane with the Darius so he can place down the Rift Herald. And LGD recognized very early that if they continue to push and try and trade sides, the Rift Herald will win. So now they can actually defend the top lane inner tower much quicker.
Yeah, Mundo is on his way back to base, but actually Cool is disrupting this one again, double distort into the chain combo, and he just keeps finding people with this one. Jinu walks back past his tower, does have the sadism, so definitely held onto that one if he needs to stay, and LGD coming in from behind him as well.
It's the wrong call from FPX though. Don't double down on the inner tower. You know that the bottom lane faced really early on, so it's just too risky. Any other team would try and challenge the fight there, chunk down from Yuki. That was a sleepy treble bubble, and that would be a real problem for FPX.
Yeah, for sure. They kind of like half committed. They sent Cool into the top lane to escort Shelly in, and the rest of the team swept the jungle from what it looked like. You see a lot of deep vision coming in there now. It's a very deep control ward on top of that.
The worst kind of committing. If the one man gets caught out, he's just dead no matter what.
That's true. Yeah, FPX are oddly greedy sometimes. Even in like losing situations, they'll still try and get more, and then by being greedy, lose everything. And that happens so often. And this is like what I'm talking about when we're seeing this like early game and the mid game. And you get to late game and you're like, this is great. But then you look at how they got there, and it's more about like the journey than it is the destination. And FPX so often, it's like, how did you get to the late game in the first place when all of these moves get made? And it seems like for the most part, the top teams can punish, but the rest of the league cannot.
Yep. And I think that being said, in this situation, FPX are in a really good spot. Unfortunately, of course, that the chain didn't go down. But look at the wards topside that you mentioned, ones that they were able to get down. Great flank positions. So if they can actually keep their dual lane topside and make it so Y4 and PYL are so far away from their own tower, then that's a possibility of GameGoon looking for a TP flank play. I love it. So we'll have to see what LGD's response to this, because they can't continue to have Y4 and PWL in that sort of position.
That's true. I also want to see what GimGoon's flanks look like, because more often than not, when he gets ahead in his lane, he likes to just double down on himself versus giving back to the team. We see a lot of split pushing coming from GimGoon, as LGD will pick up the Dragon right here. LWX is in the top lane all by his lonesome, but he does know that the rest of LGD is in the bottom side. It's just important that he doesn't get caught out from here on out.
I'm surprised that LWX was able to get his full Muramana at 19 minutes. Remember, he upgraded that one pretty late. Got the Iceborne Gauntlet first, so he's been stacking up passively throughout the entire game. Really well done from him to be able to still have the utility early on, but still get the Muramana completely down-packed really early. So he's in a pretty quick pace.
Yeah, he's also been farming really well as well. 200 farm at 19 minutes, not even 20 on the clock. Feels good for him. So
nice.
FPX definitely felt strong when he went into the last fight.
Yeah, it's always nice to see LWX in this kind of position, because his issue as a player has been not his skill, but his hubris. He's always played just goes in. Speaking of going in, he's a fight. Yeah,
Amy trapped right here. He's buying a bit of time. Flashed away, still dies that one. 600 gold in the pocket. That's going to be a kill. No, not in return. That was a clone. Definitely juked me on that one, and that's just another kill going over to FPX, evening up the kill total, taking away the blue buff, looking towards the bottom side. Jinnu is very far pushed up.
He's got to watch himself. Tower won't save him with how many members are here.
He messed up Darius though. I think he feels safe.
He's going to be alright for himself. But it's nice to see FPX playing around their jungler. Alex is leading the charge here, so a lot of confidence there. Remember with the build that Amy's going towards.
Calm down, that's so much damage coming from Ezreal. Look at him. Flashes forwards, forces a flash from Jinnu.
You just never really believe it. I just didn't believe they were going to get the kill, but just too many things are landing. LWX would have certainly got the kill, but great flash from Jinnu to just stop them from coming forward.
Oh, LGD want this flash forwards, downs the lick downs, LGD finds the slow Yuki, good body block coming in from Chris, however, teleport coming down to the bottom lane, and Chris is still committing, because GimGoon's right on top of him as well, finds the apprehend, looking for the dunk, but has to go back right now. Alex rotating from the jungle, low on mana, cool drops, but Jinnu, he's got the health once again, throws in the Alistair, he's gonna die. GimGoon, can he find the resets? He's feared, he's dead, and again, FPX keep doubling down on these plays and lose the fight.
Yep, and they were confident around LWX being able to be that utility. Slow them down. Mundo had no option coming in, but he just played his role. He's like, hey, you know what? You're focusing me. You have to be focusing down Yuki. Yuki ended up dying, but he got the job done. Really forced out LWX pretty far off. Was able to get the kill onwards. Cool. Take a second look at this, because it was all on PWL trying to make the play happen and being the one that just walks up face first, tank as much as possible, and allow the space of Y4 and Yuki to try and carry it home.
And right there, you can see GimGoon was wanting to go in and get the stacks, and for some reason, FPX is like, we can keep going. Great knock coming out from Chris, but it's under the assumption that GimGoon would get these resets going, but he never got the Noxian Might at the start of the fight, so it's never going to happen.
I think if he played a little bit slower, there's a possibility of it working. Remember, LWX needs a lot more time now, just because instead of going the Trinity Force route, he went towards Iceborne Gauntlet. Doesn't have the damage, but can play a lot slower, has the mana now, and the slow with his Iceborne. So, there's a possibility. Makes it harder for Y4 and Yuki to step up forward.
Bottom lane, Darius getting caught on this one. Jinnu with the follow-up and the fear coming down as well. Apprehend, big heal coming out from GimGoon, finding both of them on the Axe Blade. Chris coming into the bottom lane and everyone is dogpiling. It feels like we keep getting into these scrums over small fights. Amy getting chased down. Chain lands. Darius finds the kill. Double apprehend once again, but he didn't want this. Instant regret as Y4 follows into the back line. Follows through. Triple knockup from Chris. Can they find the turnaround? Because here comes Cool. Gets blocked out by the perfect timing. PYL still alive. He gobbles up the Alistair. Mid lane comes in. Yuki finds a second. Cool wants to kill Jinnu. You can't do this. Run away.
What the hell's happening, Bolt? What's
I don't
going
know,
on?
Raz. Oh my god, why did you just run? Yuki, he gets his kill.
This is what happens when you have too many mechanical monkeys in this one game. All of them are so good, but the issue is the setup starts to falter. So LGD, in a great position, just because they set up the gank to start with. You were talking about the heals coming from Darius, and that's what makes it a lot more dicier. So double heal 2 times in a row for GimGoon to just walk up to his team so he's not in such a poor spot anymore. So just take a second look at this.
It's okay to fold sometimes.
There we go. First heal off, he's now 30-40% HP, walks up forward so he can get off Junu again. So he's already got now one full complete stack on towards Mundo. It's unfortunate that he's going for Mundo first, but he sees the HP being lost off Nocturne. And this is how hectic the fight's in. Y4 shouldn't have gone in, but he ends up dying now when they could have had the consistent damage out of him. So instead of walking it back and forth, he's like, I got all of them. Don't even worry about it.
The other thing was the most clutch spell shield of all time coming out from Amy, blocking the Noxian Guillotine so he didn't get the resets. That's why he had to finally get the kill off his Q rather than the ult. That would have been maybe another kill to Darius, so didn't see that the first time round. Understand why FPX were like, we can totally do this. That being said, this is the third fight in a row that I watched FPX. Literally like a small wager is made by LGD and they're like, all in!
Yep. And this is where we look to say Cool and LWX in particular. Because a lot of this is they stick around the fight a little bit longer than they should because they feel like they can outplay. It's been the case of a lot of these team fights, our members feeling like they can outplay in the situation because they've done that in the past in solo queue and scrims and on stage. So going up against each other, it seems like if you're all in a fight, it's going to happen a lot longer than one team should want it to.
And to be fair, that last one I think was the highest percentage play that they've made all game, because the other ones were them just teleporting in one at a time and actually being outnumbered until the end of the fight. This one they actually had the numbers advantage. It was just actually really good plays from LGD on the individual level, I think. But it does seem like they're also trying to replicate like the Rogue Warrior style, which is go for the fight, surprise them with a fight, keep looking for these sucker punches. Now the Dragon comes through and here comes a Nocturne once again. Engage problems, not really a problem, because Nocturne is just ripping apart that single player. Goodbye, Alex. Chris was also caught on the backside of that. Gimgoon, what Darius? I didn't see a Darius, did you? And this is just a constant follow down from LGD as they get pick after pick after pick onto FPX.
Much cleaner fight, obviously, because Alex was just away from the bunch. He was the Black Duckling in this situation. Just completely out to dry. Amy got a catch on him. Makes it easier for now for them to walk up to Baron, even though there are two members still alive for FPX. TP is not available, so even in, I'd say, 10 seconds when Gimgoon comes up, won't be able to stop this from happening.
Yeah, LeBlanc just poking away right there onto that back line. But these are still very healthy bars right here, because that was, you could barely call a up. Cool face plants the wall. LGD will take the Baron here. And again, that wasn't a fight, that was LGD just a massacre for them. That was just them taking the lambs to the slaughter. So LGD, they find themselves Baron and now in a commanding position.
And before this fight, I would have said that LGD is actually in a great spot, just because Zoe's got her major spike, 2 evolved skins for Y4, so he has E and Q, a lot of damage addition he can get in these skirmishes and fights. So, only thing I wanted to see from LGD is Amy play out the fights slower, because he's actually the squishiest member, doesn't need to take that much damage, so they have a chance. But they just found a great opportunity in that fight. Sure, I mean, Dragon going over, but they just got a lot of kills off that.
Again, combo coming in from Cool, but this time, the technology is there. LGD have picked up Banshees. They have multiple ways of getting around the magic damage now. You can see in top lane, Spirit Vision is complete. Jungle got the Hex Strength and complete. Mid lane, the Banshees, as we just mentioned. So, right now, LGD feeling very good about defending themselves about Cool when he's trying to dip and dive and try and find these picks.
Worst thing about going up against LGD's composition is Sleepy Trouble's coming out through. Tom Kench, if anyone gets picked off, and Mundo can just face plant. 3 incredibly difficult things to deal with. You have to be super creative to stop this from just dogpiling you.
And LGD just picking a lot off of this one. Feels like they've gotten a lot of this game on a silver platter for themselves. A lot of these fights have been won to their credit. I think a lot of that has gone over to Yuki, Amy in fact, and also the Kaiser. But I do think at the end of the day that LGD, we were talking about their problems in Champions League, how this composite... Oh!
Nope.
I feel bad for you, Cool. How, you know, their composition doesn't have a ton of engage, really looking for like a bubble to land, or like maybe a Nocturne flies in and he doesn't insta-die. He just pops the paranoia, so they don't know where they're going.
There we go.
It's all good. But FPX kind of solved that issue for them. They were like, it's fine, we'll engage for you. You'll never have to engage on us in the first place. We've got you.
Yep. Yeah, at least they have reactive plays to be able to deal with it. So Tom Kench is so pivotal if they ever get engaged on by FPX. Now I don't know what LeBlanc does. If she ever goes in, of course, you already talked about the Banshee's Veil. Tom Kench should be able to save whoever it is. In this case, Y4 should watch for himself. Has heal and flash, so the extra combat defensive spell for himself. Not the TP that we see from Ezreal, so For LGD, because they have such a dominating lead, they can just play through the waves. They don't have to force anything. So they're in such a fantastic spot in this game. FPX seems like the time's really run out for, in particular, LeBlanc and Vitalia. They were early game answers, and they just lost that.
What it feels like, and I know you were talking about the builds earlier for the Ezreal, like he was looking at more prolonged fights instead of going for the Triforce, went for the Iceborne. Feels like Darius went the opposite direction. He went for the Triforce first instead of looking for something like a Black Cleaver and then looking for a longer fight. Like he wants to burst, instantly get the procs off and look for dunks. And it feels like there was almost a little bit of anti-synergy coming in for what different members of FPX were looking for in fights. You know, I actually would have preferred if they were looking for longer fights to happen, then Gimgoon go towards a tanky build early on the Darius.
Yeah, a lot of the times we've been seeing so much more Trinity Force just as a staple now in side lanes in particular. So if Jinwoo was sticking in side lanes a little bit more often than it would have been the case, I feel like Gimgoon didn't have that kind of help, oftentimes finding himself in that 1v2. Whew. Wow.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem for LeBlanc. Something I learned, and I think Cool just learned, is that Akefian Rain, it will follow you wherever you go.
100%.
That rain cloud will follow you all the way back to base. So now he can't keep doing that because Y4's just discovered that he can just click Q.
It hurts. It's not like you're ever going to get it wrong too, unless if there's a wave right beside you.
Yeah.
You click Q, members beside you, it's going to hit them. So it's really difficult defensively, offensively. Cool, only real option here is to sit himself in side lane to try and outpush. You can see what top lane is doing right now. It's already pushing on its own. There's not much they can do other than try and make it so the waves are in a good spot for them.
Yeah, it's a rough life for Cool, honestly. We talked about the fight at Slayer and the LeBlanc, early game champions for themselves, looking towards that mid game and looking for those picks, but now the itemization has come through from LGD. It's much harder for themselves. And then at that point, you know, you're looking towards the team and it's just like, well, how are we doing? Where's the AD carry? Where's the top lane? Will they be able to carry us over the line? Well, the top lane doing okay as a Triforce, as a Sterex. AD carry sat on 3 items, but compared to what LGD are packing, I don't think it really compares.
Yeah, complete damage drop-off. I would say that Gimgoon, and we see this a few times with Darius's in team fights that go a little bit too long and he's untracked, can still get the true damage bursts off if he gets enough stacks on members. We saw that in the previous fight, obviously, with Nocturne, but the spell shield came through, as you mentioned. So that is their hope if the fight goes off and if LGD wildly misplay it.
Yeah.
But that being said, it would have to be a misplay because Jinwoo just has to walk forward and take that damage. And Y4 deals so much at this point in time with Yuki.
Yeah.
I just don't see it happen. And the man has redemption.
Yeah, I don't know why he has that, but he just does. Picked up from a minion, looks like. He's going to be happy with that one, definitely. The dragon going to LGD right there. FPX. Let's see if they can pull it back. Because in terms of gold leads, 4,000 gold to LGD, but it's like the amount of ground that they've gained over this game. You can see that they are firmly in the lead.
And they've stalled it out to a point where it gets to the usual league go-to, try and steal Baron if you can. If you can, excellent, wonderful. We've seen that too many times in the summer split. Then they can actually play to their waves and have LeBlanc and Darius be in side lanes. But it has to come down to that. I think LGD as a team is way too good around playing around Baron, especially with PYL. I think that he has a great grasp in varying situations, that it should be a massive outplay if FPX is able to pull it off.
Yeah, I do think so. And also the other thing is, like, I keep saying if you ignore like the first 35 minutes of gameplay, FPX would look actually pretty good in the late game, so they should still be able to find like a good fight. There is still a very real possibility that FPX just stumble upon a Baron, stumble upon a big play, and this really is the team down to a T. You know, they're almost like the inverse of old WE when we call them the Elder Dragon team or the Turtle team, where they got to 35 minutes. You're like, wow, look at like this this Water Titan stellar defense they've managed to build up for themselves. FPX is more like a Cirque du Soleil up until that point, and you're like, wow, what a great 35-minute fight.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it comes down to the individual members being able to free themselves out of lane. So LWX is someone that wants to jump in. I think if he finds an opening on Y4, he will go for it. So we'll see if that ends up coming through. Baron coming up, it's actually just up now.
It is. Wards are being cleared out. LGD have complete control over the area, so they can make this a forced play if they want to, or just quickly rotate towards it. Have to use the Ezreal ultimate to scout that one.
So oppressive. Honestly, LGD should just go for it. They just have too many tanking abilities. Just based off of Mundo, he should just face tank it. That. It's impossible for the team of FPX to even try and walk up unless if they just go for a smite skill. But even then, the Nocturne ulti. Oh my goodness. Please.
Yeah.
This composition.
I mean, it should have had problems. We didn't really see any of them. Amy and FLICKR are starting to spawn up. Here comes the wall, firing through the pit, splitting up the pit. Definitely split up Amy, but the initiation isn't coming through from FPX just yet, and Crisp is getting stopped in his tracks. In fact, Crisp is dying. He gets hit by another bubble, another Q, another paddle star. He's low. Juju, still healing. FPX on the retreat right now. Uh-oh, Alex is being tagged up. He's firmly blue screens on this one. Here comes Amy into the back line. I mean, it's in my throat as well. That's put me to sleep. Oh, white ball! Killer instant. Oh my god! He's turned into a dragon. He comes back down, looks for the jump, doesn't quite find it. Double kill over to the Kaiser. And Core on his way, retreating to the bottom side of the map.
It's insane. It's kind of ugly. You see the Y4 going for a full AP build on that one too, so you can see what happens if you get poked across an LWX. Flags coming across. So oppressive from LGD.
Yeah, ridiculous stuff coming in from LGD. Uh-oh.
Get him.
The catfish has found his prey. Yeah, gonna have to flash away from this one. Or distort away, rather. What a ridiculous fight. But ultimately, he's just trying to stop the recoil, because as we fly all the way over to the base, LGD will take game one.
My favorite screen. No matter where you are, you're getting pulled back into your exploding nexus. So that ends up happening. And clean as you can be. It's always the first
Clean
worry.
as a whistle.
First worry is early game with the composition that LGD have. But then, if you can play reactively, and it was such a good game from Amy to bounce back, because most junglers in that situation would fall into the wayside. Felt like for him to be so far behind in the individual matchup, to rally the team, to be able to go around the Dragon Pit and secure those fights onto an unsuspecting Alex, brought them back in this game.
Felt like something flew up my nose.
Definitely did.
I don't know what that was. Neither did this game as well. 35 minutes on the dot, in fact, in this game. And to time that one perfectly. And LGD, it almost felt too easy for them. I mean, it's going to be a great win for them here today, getting that first win in this series, you know, for the Hangzhou crowd. On top of that, you were saying how loud the crowd has been recently. In fact, they found 3 series back-to-back. So they've been definitely on the upswing. Out of their 4 wins, 3 of those were in a row. So that feels definitely good that they take game 1, possibly sweeping FPX here.
Yeah, they're definitely the team that are coming into this that don't have that much to prove versus FPX. I feel like they're the stronger team of the two. They're the favorites. That being said, while it looked like a clean victory at the very end, you saw the gold graph. It's just because LGD's composition is just a snowball comp. Straightforward, throw the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and there's so much denial in their composition that it's actually hard to steal Baron with the Nocturne ultimate. Didn't even get the chance because they had that strong enough vision control to stop them even getting that close to the bit. And then they have the Tahm Kench to save anyone else. So felt like the composition is tough to fight when it gets that far. So the lesson for FPX is actually just how'd the early fights go? Because this is the composition. They excelled in the early game through mid lane jungle, and they were doing very well for Alex. In fact, Alex will look back at it. He's going to pick apart some of the plays because going into the blue side jungle, getting killed, ain't that good. Then, of course, finding the death around the dragon fight when you didn't have your members, also not good. The end result is that he should just bring Crisp along a little bit more often.
So in fact, what should they have done in the end? Basically just not fight? Because it felt like
no, just bring Crisp along. They were actually doing well.
That was the only thing that they wanted.
Bring more members.
They just needed more people.
Bring more people. A lot of times he's just getting caught out in those situations. This was a great fight for FPX initially because Gimgoon plays it slowly, plays it well so they can actually come in members, even with the Talia ulti cutting off a few members so they don't get into the fight. And it felt good initially. You'd like to see a little bit more of this from FPX's side.
Yeah, for sure. But in the end, FPX, because they didn't have that extra member, they kept doubling down and being at a numbers disadvantage, essentially, at the end of this fight, and the other 2 fights before this.
Yes, and so numbers is a big issue, because they have that large of a lead just based off mid lane jungle alone, and it is just bringing in a few more members, because if you're walking up to, you contest a blue buff. You had that early blue buff trade, because Amy actually played the first few risks atrociously. First time, okay, the ward caught you. Going for a second time, it's a little bit too much. Felt really good from Alex from that point, but you have to bring in Chris because he's doing really well in his own lane. Bring in LeBlanc, there were a few instances where she was actually freed up and it just didn't happen.
Yep.
So as long as you have the backup there, there's no way Nocturne can contest you. And I felt like that's a lesson he learned from game 1.
That's a fair point, Raz, but I think if we just go back to the core of this and go back to the core of the composition, then would you say that FPX maybe should look towards a different composition? Do you think that like they get trapped right here? Because it's like so many of their wins do come from late game fights, but if they are hamstringing themselves by going for like you know, early mid game in jungle and mid, then being like, well, we're late game and we're behind, so I guess we lose. Like maybe they should look for something different in the mid lane, perhaps?
Look, the noob trap is we lost that game. We changed compositions for late game, except we lose in the early game in the next game. So we're just bad players. No, you literally should, like, this is a great composition for them because Cool and Alex are members that actually control a lot of the flow early game. So you're right in the sense that a lot of ownership is now on LWX and a little bit more on Crisp if they go into the later stages of the game. But we saw how they lose those games when that happens because LWX is very trigger happy.
Yeah.
And he just goes in when he shouldn't, doesn't have the protection there. So there are a lot of problems on both ends of the spectrums for this team. And I think this composition worked well for them. Just got to play it right. I
guess what I'm trying to say is like this is a little atypical of what they usually run because in top lane, I mean, usually you see like a Kled come up there that was banned this game. And then when you look at their compositions in general, it's generally like close to mid-range compositions. You know, they all usually have a way to run at you and then run you over.
Yep.
And I'm also saying like if I'm the drafting coach, I'd be like, okay, someone else pick for LWX so he doesn't get control. Don't give him a champion with a dash or a blink. All right, perfect. Top lane, give us a way to get into a fight reliably. Kled works, yeah. Maybe Vladimir in top lane and bring something like a Karma in the mid lane and get them into a fight.
You just want them to be charging animals.
Yeah, mid game. Yes, I do, Raz. Yes, I do. Because I feel like because they are brawlers essentially right now, that's when they found success in Spring. That's what they should do. Yes or no?
They didn't find success in Spring. They got booted out of the playoffs by the entire Western Conference a weaker of the two. If they have higher aspirations, team to get into playoffs, this is the right way to go. But if if they do want to go to what's comfortable for this team, then sure, you can play to what's comfortable. What's comfortable isn't working, and I feel like the moving pieces, bringing Cool, bringing Alex, is to fix that problem. I like the changes that they've had. In fact, their BLG set, to me, was the most impressive one, because the wards being able to protect Gimgoon, although it is a loss, was best we've seen them playing slow. Some of the compositions at that time was a little janky, not having the proper engage. This time they resolved that. So, got to play it slower, got to play it better. So, I hear you. I don't want to see that no more.
All right, well, we'll see if they can develop on these compositions that they are bringing out recently. That being said, PYL will actually take our MVP. I don't even know how many PYL MVPs we've seen this split. None is the answer. This is the very first one of the split coming in on this one. Oh, looked like his eye hurts in the same way that Icons does as well. Unfortunately, hope you can get that one checked out. 0-0 and 15 on the KDA.
Crucial in team fights. We've seen how the Tom Kench ended up saving Yuki, Y4, and a lot of those fights. Really confused FPX in those longer skirmishes. And why are we losing? I mean, you can see Chris getting proper engages before the replay even started. He was like, well, I guess we end up losing. This was at the last fight where they just get heavily poked down, surprisingly, by the AP Kaisa and Y4 to just start the all-in. Oh. That was a wolf too, just to correct you. Remember this Darius skin is a wolf.
Yeah.
So you call it a dragon, I'm upset.
It looked like a dragon to me. It looked
like
a golden dragon.
Because he was stopwatch.
I know. People should do that more, by the way. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break before we head into our second game over in Hangzhou.
不破不立，只有经历巨变，老干爹才能重获新生。